Hey everyone, time for another video, another random tool comments, this time about this Stahlwille wrench set. I picked up, had a tool haul from Mr. Worker. This is the last item from that. So we're going to go into it a bit, cover some items, make some comments about this, and point some things out, and so forth. Anyway, so let's see here, without further ado, this is a double offset Stahlwille wrench set. The Stahlwille part number is 96830356, and the product number, I guess you say, is TCS 20/8. In this case, the TCS is Stahlwille's foam inset system. If you've seen some other stuff, I've talked about this a bit. In this case, the TCS is defined. It has a name. It stands for Tool Control System. You know, again, I won't belabor the point because you can look at my another video I had out recently about a socket set where I go into a little more depth. This is another 1/3 module to install Stahlwille's system. You know, so that's 175 by 350 millimeters long. And usually it will sit something like this inside your tool chest or, you know, drawer, whatnot. This, not a bad deal. This is how it came packaged. Obviously, nice cardboard here. Get the plastic wrap, and then of course you get your sticker. Haven't really had a chance to open this up yet. Now, let me do a detour real quick. And before I go too much further, I'll say, you know, this is packaged pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. Pretty pleased with how this is packaged. But, you know, again, this is the simplistic Stahlwille style packaging. They don't really go, you know, they're not really fancy and glitzy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just it's a different style, and I have to say I like this just as much as I like the style from, say, Vera, or, you know, kind of the in-between from Hotset. So, let's see here. Let's go ahead and crack this open. Rip the plastic a bit here. And let's see if I can get it out without too much trouble. And there we go. Pretty decent little box. We'll recycle that later. So here's the set itself. Got a wonderful foam tray from Stahlwille. This is their, like I said before, this is their TCS set. Their coloring is kind of interesting, even though their kind of basic color is kind of green and black with kind of a silver. Their trays are this very bright yellow, as you can see, and then of course they have the product number and information on the backside. They have the black and then the yellow for contrast. It does provide a significant amount of visibility, to be honest. Yellow is the most visible color to the eye in most ways, while green is sort of not as much. It's kind of a thing. You can go look it up and see and find out more information about it. Anyway, so before I really dive into these, just some little background, I guess, meta discussion about why I even have them. Honestly, for many years, I never even considered buying these. I mean, I've seen them. They're kind of an unusual tool. That isn't to say they aren't useful, and I'll explain why, at least in my case, they've been useful. They are, like I said, I never considered buying them. I'm like, I don't know why you would need these. This is some kind of specialized tool. But I don't know, maybe about a year and a half ago, I was doing some work on one of my cars, and I needed to remove the parking brake on the left rear wheel. So the Honda service information, I was doing work on a Pilot, the Honda manual, and this is the Honda service manual, not some knockoff. They said to remove the parking brake cable once you've pulled all the other pieces off, you know, the shoes and all the other things, the retaining clips and so forth. So after taking all that stuff off, they said to take the cable off, take a 12mm offset wrench, pop it over the end of the cable, and then you could pull the cable out. So I ignored that. I said, nah, you know, they'll say these sorts of odd things in the service manual to use some kind of specialized tool, and I just kind of chalked it up to that. So I tried other means to get the cable out. Basically, you had like the cable in, and then there's kind of leaf springs that kind of spread out. And let's see if I can give you an idea. So if you imagine like this is the actual end of the parking brake cable, there's kind of these springs that sit like this, and they butt up against, I guess, a socket, or the hub itself. There's like a mounting spot. So there's a mounting spot, and then this leaf spring kind of fits in the end and locks in. So the problem is you have to push all these leaves of the spring in to get it past the rim of the mounting hole so you can push it through and then pull the cable in through, and then you can take it out. So you can't really pull anything else out until you get that out. So that was the problem. So I tried a bunch of different things. I tried pliers, I tried other stuff, I don't remember what, and none of it worked, and it was really frustrating. So finally I said, well, maybe they weren't kidding. Maybe the service manual did actually say something useful. So these things just don't grow on trees. They're just not available. I mean, you can go find regular wrenches at like a Lowe's, but finding offset wrenches and a 12 millimeter with that isn't exactly something you can find at any big box store, etc. So I dug around, got on the internet, did some searching, and found that Harbor Freight had these, not these, but double offset wrenches, and at a relatively reasonable price. I think I paid like 17 bucks for a set, not as many as these. I think it was like maybe a 6-piece or 7-piece. I'll put a link in the description. So I went, picked them up. They're made in India, pretty crude, but I tried what the service manual said, which was basically taking the end of the offset, putting it over the end, and then compressing all the leaves of the spring. And then I was able to go and you kind of push it in, and then you keep going and you pull, and then it pops out. And it worked. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, because then I continue on doing the work. I was finished stuff up. So I said, okay, well, not bad. And then after that I said, well, okay, I got this cheap set, and then I found that I could use them in a few other instances. It wasn't very common that I would use these, and normally I wouldn't. But there were just situations where there was a fastener that it was just easier to get to them with this versus, say, you know, a socket or something else. These aren't something you use very often, I will say that. And like, again, the Lone Star Mopars guy, he bought, I think he bought an offset set, not these, some other. But he said the same thing, that, you know, these double offsets, they just, you don't use them much. But that said, I have used mine. There were ones I had, the Harbor Freight ones. And I said, well, okay. Now, as I said, they're pretty crude. Now, they're cheap. I mean, they're what you would expect from something from Harbor Freight, but they'll do fine if you're going to use them rarely. And honestly, I just could have kept those, but I had a pretty good deal on these, and I had a coupon from Mr. Worker, so they had a promo of some sort, 10% off something. And when I got it, and I threw them in and picked them up. Now, they're pricey. I mean, these aren't expensive. These aren't cheap. I mean, they're like roughly 4 times or more than the Harbor Freight ones, but they are, you know, made in Germany, higher quality. I already like the Stahlwille wrenches a bunch, so I said, you know what, I'll pick up a set. On top of that, you get the tray to store them in. They have these in, I think, ES tray, the plastic one, but I like the foam, and the price really wasn't that much of a difference. Usually the foam ends up being more expensive than the plastic, but in this case it wasn't much, and so I pulled the trigger and brought them in. So let's get into it. Again, this is the module set. The foam, as you can tell, you have the cutouts for each one. They range from I think it's 6, 7 millimeter, then it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then it starts getting weird. This is an 1821, and then finally a 1922. Kind of unusual. So you don't have a 20, and it's only these last 2 large ones that things get a little weird. Apart from that, you aren't really skipping anything. Now, they sell bigger, and you know, I said before the part number was TCS 20/8. Of course, the TCS was the tool control system, which is basically this foam insert. The 20 means it's a 20 series wrench. In this case, this is the Stahlwille 20, or Stahlwille. I'm not exactly sure how I pronounce it. Maybe somebody will correct me. And the 8 is for 8 parts. 3, 6, 7, 8. They don't count the foam insert in that. So that's what deciphering that Stahlwille product number means in this particular case. Now, As you can expect, this is going to be, I mean, unless there's something really weird, these are going to be the same quality as some of their other wrenches. And Stahlwille makes some excellent wrenches. I like their finish. It's the same kind of matte that they normally have. Let me make very sure that things are focused here. Hopefully that'll be good. They're, you know, the usual matte chrome that they have, which I like. And if you compare to, say, this Stahlwille Open, this is their Motor 10. The finish is the same. There's no practical difference. I don't really see anything that stands out. They have some machining here and here on the ends, but everything else is pretty much exactly what you would imagine. They're 12 point. Like I said, they're the double offset, which means, of course, you have this side and this side. In some ways, you know, you could, I would say you could probably just go and, I will say that is one thing that's kind of weird, is where they fit. It probably kind of doesn't matter, but it is something where it's kind of hard to tell which side is which. Anyway, that's kind of a digression. I would say that if you kind of wanted a wrench set, you could probably get these, the motor, you know, which are the dual end. And you can also get the offsets and have a pretty good 2 sets that covered everything. Now I know that Hotset, I think it's Hotset and Ghidorah both sell combination wrenches that have an offset. They don't have a deep offset. I think their offset is like half. And then they have an open end on the other. So that's just something, kind of a variation that this type of wrenches can be pretty handy. But the deep offset is usually pretty much a specialized thing. Let's see. There's not much to cover about these from the standpoint of, I don't know, details about them. I mean, honestly, they're just wrenches. That's what they are. But let's do some quick stats here. So, like, let's pick, this is a 1312. This would actually be a pretty common size. And let's see here. This one from end to end is, I guess if I measure like this, it's around close to 23 millimeters long. If I hold it like this, it's still around 23. And, you know, they've got the same kind of profile, that same kind of, they call it the double eye profile. You know, that Stahlwille is known for. It's very thin here. And then, of course, they have that same kind of trough, or, you know, cut out here, which to make it thinner and lighter. And then the offset, I think it's a 60-degree offset from what I remember. So, you know, you've got roughly a 60-degree angle. So, like, you have 0 and 30 and 60 and then 90. And that's how they do these. Other than the 20, I don't know, I think this is a pretty good size. I mean, the one thing that's a little unusual is it goes down to a 6. I don't really know too many need and use for a 6, but yeah, you know, it's certainly not going to hurt to have it. Let's see, I might do weighing here real quick too, just to make a comparison. And let's see here, hang on a second. This time I won't leave the thing on. Alright, so we take, say, the 1213 that I had earlier, and then we'll put it here. See if I can weigh it. The problem I'm going to run into is, actually, I know what I'm going to do. I will use this stupid little tray, which is also storage for it. Put it on there. Then we'll weigh it like this. And it weighs roughly 126 grams, which is pretty good, I guess. I don't really have any idea in terms of weight, you know, kind of what they should be. I mean, to me, they feel pretty good. You know, I mean, in terms of, it would be exactly what I would expect, honestly, and it is. You know, they have the same kind of, that same smooth finish in the hand. Now, it is kind of interesting that these are thinner. I'm sorry, not as wide. So like this is 1819. So if we take, well, let me get one that's probably a better comparison, since they have that kind of weird skipping at the top end. This is a 1415. So this would be a similar, well, maybe there isn't any difference. Well, yeah, I guess you can see it. The this one, the double open, is honestly, it's not quite as wide It's kind of hard to visualize. Let me get my micrometer and then I'll measure. So kind of as a comparison. Kind of a little kind of interesting that I can feel it. It's a little bit skinnier than the 20. Okay, yeah. So here is measure in the middle. If I can get it right, about 13.7, and this is, well, yep, about 15. So that's a couple millimeters. That's not an insignificant amount. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't really see, other than the length, really wouldn't think there'd be any reason why this. I guess the length probably would be the reason why. You want, if it's longer, you kind of want it to be wider and have a little more strength, I guess. And then it is definitely thicker. I'll show you. Let's see if I can show you here. I'll prop it up even, and then try to focus on that and see if you can see it really good. As you can tell, this is just not as thick. Again, that may come down to because it's the length. If we measure, we're going to get into 3.81 and millimeters, and then this is 5.4. So that's a pretty significant amount of thickness. I mean, in terms of, you know, what it's going to be. That's fascinating to me that it's that thick. I'll make sure I measure that. Yep, no, that's right. 5.39. Make sure I'm zeroed out. Yep. So yeah, it's pretty thick. That's a pretty beefy wrench. So I guess, you know, from that regard, it's pretty solid in that respect. I mean, it is what you would expect. You would expect it to be a pretty solid wrench in terms of, you know, the in terms of what it's for. You know, you kind of want, I guess, some strength, because this is an offset. So, you know, you're going to have a lot of stress on this side. This part of the wrench, because you're going to be pulling like this, or you know, going the other way if you're pulling the other way. So in that regard, you kind of want some beefier, you would want a more sturdy wrench in that regard. So also, of course, you know, this is pretty thick and meaty here. You can't really tell, but it's pretty solid. And then of course it's kind of like there's a barrel or something there. Anyway, I think that's about it, really. There's not really much to cover about these other than, you know, some of the basics. The finish is exactly what you would expect. You know, even just looking at them, I'm not really seeing anything that's out of the ordinary from, you know, other Stahlwille wrenches that I have and have seen. All the markings are solid. They're marked on both sides. The letters are easily visible. The finish is what you would expect. There's no real major blemishes or defects from what I can tell. The only thing that is kind of odd is if you're putting these up, are you putting them right? It is kind of, it feels weird putting this in because there's kind of I guess a wobble. So you don't feel like you're putting them in right, but that is correct. Anyway, yeah, like I said, there's just nothing really that's wrong about them. They're good quality wrenches that you would expect from Stahlwille. You know, they're made in Germany. I would say, you know, even though they're pricey, you're certainly getting your money's worth with this. And if you really need these, or you find that you might use them, like I was surprisingly found that I needed them in an unusual use case, yeah, I think they're worth getting. You know, only time will tell as I use these versus the others I had, whether or not they end up being, you know, worth it. But I really don't think these are going to be bad at all. I mean, the other, I use my Stahlwille wrenches a number of times, and they've done well. They're well-made wrenches. They have their own aesthetic and feel to them that it seems like they'd be rough, but they're not. They're smooth and they feel good in the hand. So anyway, that's about it for this video. Hope you liked it. You can subscribe, make a comment, and as always, thanks for watching.